Move to our next topic. I want to stay on the topic of quarterbacks, though. I want to talk about the Saints for a second. Okay. Listen, Alvin Kamara is often going number 2, number 3 in drafts.
No, not number 2. Not number 3.
He's like number 4 or 5.
Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Dalvin,
4, 5, 6.
CMC, I forgot Dalvin Cook, then anywhere from Kelsey.
Maybe the 3rd,
Alvin
but really
Kamara.
it's more 4, 5, 6,
right,
maybe even 7.
I always forget about Dalvin Cook, maybe because I'm selling him on this current season, but that's a whole nother topic.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about Alvin Kamara for a second. Which quarterback do you think is going to help Alvin Kamara repeat last year's stats? What's the best quarterback for the Saints?
You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
He wants to set you up so that he can.
I know he's trying to set me up.
I know exactly where he's going.
Hey,
you always want the rebuttal. Why can't you go first
just sitting over here listening to the question. Go ahead, man.
Okay, I see. Put your phone away. Don't be taking notes while I'm All right. For me, I don't think it matters. Okay?
No, come on.
It does not matter. I don't think it matters. Okay? And I'm going to start the topic off with this. The idea that the community thinks that Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston and their style of play is going to dictate what the Saints offense is going to be and is ultimately going to lead Sean Payton from going away from his best players is laughable to me. Name who are the Saints' 2 best offensive players?
Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara.
And then who's after that? 1, 2, 3. I'm counting the seconds of dead silence. Who's 3 after that?
I can go in.
Who's 3 after that?
Traquan
Smith.
Smith. Latavius Murray. Adam Troutman.
Okay.
Marquez Callaway.
Exactly. You naming a bunch of guys that exactly.
These guys got talent.
Guys that you aren't drafting before round 18.
Right. I'm probably not even drafting them.
And you're not even drafting them. Exactly.
No, draft Troutman though. But go ahead.
Okay. This is still a great O-line. Okay? Still a great O-line. Sean Payton, if we're going to rank offensive minds in the NFL, whether you like him or not, you're going to put him near the top tier. Okay? Mm-hmm. You're going to put him near the top tier. This offense has historically targeted their running backs. And this is not, I don't want to hear, again, I set the seat up earlier, okay? A dump off is very different than a running back actually running routes and being schemed open or being schemed to where he is lined up against a safety or a linebacker. That's what this offense does. It puts its running backs against players who cannot guard them. Okay, so this isn't a situation where Alvin Kamara was, getting a bunch of dump offs, and that's why he's always had 80 receptions a year. No, he gets 80 receptions a year because Sean Payton knows this is literally his best player, and we have to figure out ways to get him the ball.
That's not what I'm worried about, though. Dio, please jump in.
What are you worried about? What are you worried about?
Please.
Wait, I'm not done. I'm just saying I don't want to wait 25 minutes talking because I got plenty.
I'm not worried about the schemed passes for Kamara. Dio, please jump in and add some sanity to it.
What was his answer? Because the question was Winston or it doesn't matter.
It does not matter. How many times you want me to say it?
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Well, obviously he's wrong. The answer is obviously Jameis Winston.
Obviously.
How is it Jameis Winston? How is it Jameis Winston?
It's a real.
Does he historically?
It's a real simple thing. It's a real simple thing. Number one, out of the 2 quarterbacks, which one is the threat to actually get goal line rushing?
Exactly.
I mean, just that simple.
Exactly.
Out of those 2 quarterbacks.
Let me interject. You know why? This is why I say it doesn't matter. Okay. When Drew Brees, Hall of Famer Drew Brees, Super Bowl winner Drew Brees, was running the Saints offense, guess who would sometimes come in on the goal line?
Taysom
Hill.
Right.
So if Jameis Winston is at the goal line, guess who's probably coming into the goal line? Taysom Hill. Okay. So
are you
that's why I say it doesn't matter. That's why I say it doesn't matter.
You're right. He might come in, but if he's actually the quarterback on the field, he's already in. Right. He doesn't need to have anything schemed. He can literally, first of all, he can literally have a play run where he runs the ball, or he can have a play breakdown where he's like, you know what, forget it, I'm gonna run the ball in. Or it could be a play where he wants to pass the ball and he sees, you know what, I could just run the ball in. All those things can happen. Now, the question was, which out of the 2 quarterbacks was the better option for Kamara? And like I said, with one of them, you obviously get the threat of taking goal line rushing work away. Like, that's obvious. The second thing is, last year we saw Taysom Hill as the quarterback for the Saints in a starting role.
Okay.
And besides, I think one game, Kamara was not getting the type of work we were accustomed to.
Let me get into that. Let's get into that. Wait. No. Let's get into that.
Can I finish my thought though?
Let's go.
Kamara was not getting the type of work we were accustomed to seeing Kamara get up to that point. So I'm not going to say the offense truly changed. What I am going to say is, for one reason or another, Taysom Hill depressed Kamara's receiving potential. Now, I don't know if it's due to Taysom Hill himself not being that type of quarterback. I know they always say Russian quarterbacks tend to not throw it to their running backs as much, or maybe Taysom Hill wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. You know, I don't know what it was. All I know is, for what played out last year, Kamara's numbers didn't look the same once Breeze left compared to when Breeze was still there.
All right, can I speak on that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So Drew Brees got injured week 10. They were playing the San Francisco 49ers. He only threw for about 60, 70 yards that game. Kamara had 8 targets and 7 receptions. He ended up scoring about 25 fantasy points that game. Okay. Now, Winston replaced Breeze that game. The following game, obviously, everything was kind of kept secret, and then we found out last minute that Taysom Hill was starting.
Right.
Now, remember, this is Taysom Hill's first start at quarterback. Now, I know he's played the quarterback position in the past. I get that, but this is the first time where his sole responsibility was not tight end, not special teams. He's not off, practicing with different components of the team. Whether it's the special teams or the tight ends group, or et cetera. He's solely focused on playing quarterback, and it's his first start. They played the Atlanta Falcons, and for the most part, they were in control of that game. And yes, we saw. Let me make sure I get this right. Let me make sure I get this
got
right.
some notes available, okay.
We saw basically 1 target for Kamara, and I think he had no receptions that game. Okay. Put up about 10 fantasy points. So obviously a very, a tough game. But again, this is Taysom Hill's first game. We can go with the narrative that likely Sean Payton had a very limited playbook. Okay. You're playing a soft opponent. You're not going to go in and just throw the ball and put your quarterback in a position where he's having a lot of turnovers. Okay. Let's fast forward to the next game. This is the Denver game. Okay.
The Kendall Hinton game.
Yeah, the Kendall Hinton game. Yeah. I'm glad who's Kendall Hinton?
The wide receiver.
Right.
The practice squad wide receiver.
Practice squad wide receiver. For who?
The Broncos.
Okay, and what happened? What happened that game?
I don't remember.
It was terrible.
The practice squad wide receiver was the starting quarterback.
I got you.
Okay.
I started this dude in one of my leagues too, man.
Yeah, mistake. So
me too. Actually, I did
come on.
So let's keep that in mind.
Point,
okay, so let's keep that in mind because during this week, Kamara only had 2 targets, 1 reception, and this was one of his lower fantasy outputs of the year. He had 6 points. Now, keep in mind, the Saints won this game 31-3. What do you think their game plan was? Knowing you're a playoff team, knowing practice squad wide receiver is the opponent's starting quarterback. What do you think their plan was? Their plan was to give Kamara likely rest and let Latavius just run. Let him and Taysom Hill run. Okay,
sounds like a bunch of excuses.
No,
Let's keep going.
This is important. This is important because when people bring up stats, when people bring up stats about Kamara and he didn't have that many targets, he didn't have that many receptions, you have to put it in context.
No, go ahead.
You got to put it in context.
You're right. You have to put it in context. Go ahead.
So next game, Atlanta again. Soft opponent, 3 targets, 2 receptions, pretty much for the most part in control of that game. Still put up 17, close to 18 fantasy points.
Right.
Okay. Now this is the last game. Okay. So if you're gonna tell me that Taysom Hill does not throw to his running backs, and you're gonna give me all these stats, and not take into account his first start, not taking into account the Kendall Hinton game, then you cannot leave out the very last game that he played. This game that theoretically he's the most comfortable in, the game that theoretically the playbook has been the most open to him, where he targeted Kamara 10 times. That's double-digit targets. Kamara caught 7 passes in that game and ended up putting up 22 fantasy points against the Philadelphia Eagles. Keep in mind they also lost this game, okay? So, I mean, we're not going to get into the Saints preview, but I think we could be looking at a Saints defense that is nowhere near as good as it was last year. And I feel like they're going to be in a lot more competitive games this year where they're just not going to be outright, leading by, 10 plus points in the fourth quarter where they're going to be able to sit on the ball. Right. So I think there's a setup here where he's going to have TD regression. Nobody scores 16 TDs routinely at that size on the amount of carries that he had. Yeah, he had 5 TDs in a game. I mean, of all people, I know he had 5 TDs. And he should have had 6. Let's be honest. He should have had 6.
Yeah, but Taysom Hill stole that one. Go ahead. But go ahead.
Good point. But that's the thing is like he scores TDs. He catches the ball. He's a major focus for that offense. He's almost always in the red zone. So he's in position to succeed. So my thing with Kamara is not that I have him ranked number 2 or even, in terms of taking him number 3 or 4 overall in like an FFPC format. My thing is that like, don't be scared to like take the dip or the value. If you had that 6th, 7th pick and Kamara's there, don't be concerned. Don't be scared.
You got the 6, 7 pick. You need to draft Kamara. Like,
exactly.
Why is Kamara falling to the 6, 7
pick? But we're hearing things like Eckler. We're hearing things like Eckler. Take Eckler ahead of him.
No.
Hey, we need wishes he could be Kamara. Eckler one day. We need to do an Eckler discussion.
We need to do a whole Chargers upset.
Yeah, I need to talk Chargers offense. I got to talk the whole Chargers team because the defense too.
Oh, because we 100% disagree on that one.
But I mean, I hear you. I totally hear you. And I did say that he did have one good game in that span. I didn't totally discredit that. All I'm saying is if gun to my head and they said, Dayo, these are your 2 options.
Dramatic.
Pick one. I know, right? It's getting dark in here, you know what I'm saying?
Mental health. We do
Dayo,
not
pick one of these quarterbacks to start this game because we need Kamara to go off. I don't see how Winston isn't the choice. That's all I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying Kamara can succeed with Taysom because if I truly felt that way, I probably wouldn't be drafting Kamara as high as I am taking him now because I'd have to hedge to some extent.
Yeah. And I think for me, most of this discussion was not necessarily on like where we were in Kamara because Kamara's not making it out of the first round. I think most people are. My discussion around this is more so the idea that this offense is going to drastically change or that Taysom or that Jameis Winston is going to come in and start chunking the ball deep.
I will say this.
That it's not the same offense.
Right.
He's not playing in the dirt cutter offense. He's not playing.
I'll say this. I do feel like the offense isn't going to be the exact same because
there'll be some changes.
I feel like Breeze was having his arm wasn't as strong as it was in the past. Absolutely. He was probably dumping it off or throwing shorter passes more so than he was in his younger years.
Agree.
So with the different quarterback, both Taysom Hill and Winston, I'm not saying they're young, spring chickens, but they still, I feel like they still have their arm strength.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're going to have a need to really dump off or throw short passes as much as Breeze. So I definitely don't feel like Kamara.
I think that helps him. I think there were so many games where teams really zeroed in knowing that Breeze, all those games that we saw Breeze struggle, they were playing against defenses that realized that he couldn't throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, but also part of that reason might have also been because he didn't have Michael Thomas all season. I mean, he literally only had one weapon on the field.
Yeah.
It was like you said, MT being gone. Yeah. Even though MT was gone, all the other receivers we still didn't even know who they were, and it was really just Kamara, and they were still succeeding. Didn't they win the division with that?
The biggest takeaway: have faith in Sean Payton. Have faith that he's going to choose the best quarterback for his offense.
Right.
Have faith that this offense is going to look a lot like it looked in the past.
Okay,
and maybe improved.
Okay, wait.
Now that we've added in the.
So we talked about Kamara.
Yeah.
What about Michael Thomas? Which quarterback out of the 2 quarterbacks, Winston and Taysom Hill, do we prefer for Michael Thomas?
I mean, Michael Thomas may be the biggest sleeper in the draft right now.
Now, chill. Come on, man. I ain't finished drafting yet. Come on.
Well, we got a lot that we've kept to the bed.
Right, I got you.
I don't think anybody's surprised, but and so when it comes down to like that argument, yes, we've been talking about Kamara, but that argument is really for Michael Thomas.
I agree.
The idea that like
I actually agree with right there.
Because remember, we were drafting this. People were drafting him in like number 2, number 3
He was the
overall.
first wide receiver.
Yeah.
He was always the first.
He was the number one wide receiver.
where Diggs is going now. Yeah.
Number 1 wide receiver. Now you're getting him in the third
round.
And again, who's their number 3 option again?
Yeah, that's
1,
fair.
2, 3.
There is
But
no
I
number
agree.
3.
I agree. And here's the thing, because I was looking at Michael Thomas' stats a little bit as well. Last year, every game he played, he had at least 8 targets. I want to say 9 targets on every single game he played last year.
Except that Denver game.
The volume is.
The Hinton
I don't know if he was even playing that
That's
game.
an outlier game. Like,
I think
I don't think he played.
You see how you give him a mulligan?
No, you're right.
No.
You know what? You're right. He played, but I still think he got like 6 targets.
Yeah, he got like 6 targets.
So even when they have a game plan where they don't even need to throw the ball, he's still getting fed targets. I mean,
that's what I'm telling you. You don't go away from your best player. Okay.
I think Michael Thomas. Here's another thing about Michael Thomas. He scored no touchdowns last season, so all his points came from receptions and yards. There has to be a touchdown
about TD regression.
There has to be a regression. He scored 9 touchdowns the year prior, 1,700 yards. 1,700 yards, 9 touchdowns. I want to say he had.
That's a bar.
Michael Thomas.
Dude, I want to say the dude had like almost 150.
Didn't we just start a main event?
Yeah, and we just drafted Michael Thomas. hey. No, but come on. We've seen this guy put up wide receiver 1 season. Like, it's not even a thing where we're like saying, can this player do it? He's done it.
Yeah.
When Taysom Hill was a quarterback, Taysom Hill locked in on Michael Thomas.
And Taysom Hill literally said, I'm not stupid. You throw to
That's
Michael
my
Thomas.
best player. Yeah. You throw it to Michael Thomas. Jameis Winston. We haven't seen him too many games as the quarterback for the Saints, but we know when he has a talented receiver, he force feeds that receiver.
Yeah.
So with all that being the case, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We know any option he's going to probably get that work. Yeah. Why is this man going in the third round? He was hurt last year.
Yeah.
Like, do we think he's still hurt? No.
All right, don't sell him too hard.
Okay.
I'm
just saying. When you start talking about Kamara, the quarterback, I started thinking like, come on.
Yeah, don't sell him too hard.
My bad.